Someone should there's actually like someone should write a book, probably probably more like better suited at that, or like make an entire documentary series. But I was gonna say someone should make a video about how just the devastating, like almost cultural genocide that hotels specifically have caused.
Yeah.
Because they've caused, like, especially since like the 1950s, like since like jet plane travel and the hotel industry has become like booming like never before, like resort hotels, right? Um, and it's something that like I know that Abigail mentioned in her video about work, talking about like how many times hotels will just be propped up in the sense of like people will go there and basically just stay in the hotel and it won't actually contribute anything to the community anyway. And some owner in like Dubai will take home all the profit anyway.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Um, yeah, but it also goes like there's so much more like underneath that surface as well. Like because as you mentioned, like a lot of time governments will demolish like nature reserves and cultural like sanctuary areas, such in this case, um, to build hotels with massive amounts of like weird funding, and then claim that it's like, well, it's it's a private interest. It's not actually a government intervention to like wipe out these culturally significant areas, but it's more uh, it's um, it's just private interest. It's just building hotels. It's going to bring wealth to the community, and then suddenly the community it doesn't exist anymore because it's only just a bunch of employees to whatever resort you're at.
Yep. The archetypical. Now, this is actually more apocryphal than actual fact, but Cuba had a lot of this sort of situation going on under the Batista regime, where the basically the Americans owned like nearly 2/3 of the Cuban economy, and yeah, Havana was all of a sudden getting all sorts of hotels built up with like casinos and stuff, and it's like, oh, who was funding this? Oh, okay, it was the American mafia. Interesting.
Hmm.
And on top of that, like they made these expensive hotels that white people could go to gamble at, while the Cuban people who are not white couldn't even afford to go into them. They could work in them, but they couldn't actually like visit them. But
Yeah.
that was often cited as like one of like the sort of gross injustices that shows the corruption of the Batista regime and sort of the motivation for the Cuban Revolution. But
Yeah,
then,
the profits from that goes primarily overseas, but it also goes like tiny bit to like people at the top, like at the Batista regime. But at the same time, like there's a social cost to all of that because like when you do that sort of thing, people will be paid like starvation wages, and when you have hotels and casinos with a bunch of like alcohol in them that spreads spreads alcohol in your communities, which is a cost on the healthcare system that like the community has to pay for. So like even from a just pure monetary standpoint, it becomes a drain on whatever community they're in for the benefit of just some people who own shit.
more, but then like the thing about it is that if you step back and look a little bit more holistically at the Cuban economy at the time, the major issue wasn't so much the casinos as it was the fact that American companies owned 2/3 of Cuba's sugar production, which was its primary industry. Like I think
Yeah.
that at its peak, gambling only really made up about like 10% of the economy, while like 70% was sugar. And when American companies own the land to build sugar crops or sugar plantations to sell sugar back to Americans, you don't say stuff like, hey, like, what about people who need to grow, like if the land is all being cultivated to grow sugar, then less and less land is being used to grow things like not sugar so that you can eat food and stuff. And so like a lot of the times like food was starting to get more expensive because Americans kept gobbling up more, or American sugar production companies started buying up more and more of these things. And then after the Cuban Revolution, they were like, well, guess we're going to Puerto Rico, boys. And then they just started a lot of the sugar companies started moving to Puerto Rico. It's also the part of the reason
Yeah.
why America colonized and conquered Hawaii. Yeah, American sugar producers have been fucking evil over history.
People talk about the, but like banana companies, sugar companies are just as bad.
Yeah. Any like cash crop that requires a tropical climate, oh boy. There are some evil fucking white people behind running those corporations.
Yes.
Just the
And
fact that
they're all based in New York for some reason.
yeah, this is weird that like the Eisenhower administration organized a coup of a democratically elected person in Nicaragua, if I remember correctly, because he tried to take some land away from the United Fruit Company that the United Fruit Company wasn't even using, because a single American corporation owned like a huge chunk of the land in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
It's fun. History's fun.